Hello everyone. For today's encouragement, I want to take you to 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 12. If I were to title this, it would be Amazing Grace. Well, here's what verse 12 says that it ends. Even the angels long to look into these things. What things, you ask? Well, Peter has just written about some blessings that God has made available to us. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade, kept in heaven for you. And the angels say, wow, that's amazing. I think there are two reasons the angels would be amazed. The first, they saw how much sacrifice God made in order to make this possible. And second, they know how bad we are. They know how evil our hearts are. God, you did this for them? I can see them scratching their head in amazement. Frankly, we ought to be scratching our head in amazement too. Let's consider those two sacrificial steps. The first one, God came up with a plan B to save the human race when plan A was perfectly sufficient. He had done his part in making it possible for us to live forever. The plan was this: if Adam, our representative, had kept the law of the Lord perfectly, if he had guarded his heart in perfect obedience, then he and we would be free to enjoy perfect life forever there in the Garden of Eden. But we know what happened. Adam took the fruit. We would have done the same thing. We were there in Adam. And when he did so, the promised consequences were on all of us. Death to us all. That one disobedient act meant that all of us were subsequently born with a sinful nature. God would have been perfectly just and fair if he had pronounced the curse on mankind and, after we failed, to leave the curse there, doing nothing more with a plan B. But God did not leave it there. He proposed a plan B in which he would become the sacrifice for our sin. What God has done was truly amazing. He implemented that plan when he didn't have to. The angels saw what God did. The angels saw Jesus set aside his glory in heaven and come to earth. The angels saw Jesus humiliated, first of all as a baby being cared for by other human beings. They saw him subject to the limitations of time and physical laws of space. When Jesus healed the sick and stilled the storm and fed the 5,000, he did so not because he was God, but he did so dependent on the Holy Spirit, like other human beings who have had the privilege of demonstrating those miracles before people. God himself was humiliated ultimately in the crucifixion. God was beaten. God was stripped naked. And God was nailed to the cross so that plan B, our salvation, would become possible. He received the wrath that we deserve. That's the first thing the angels long to look into. The second thing the angels long to look at is the condition of human beings when God did that for us. Romans chapter 5, verse 8. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. How bad are we? Well, apart from the grace of God at work in our life, we would be what Romans chapter 3 describes as this: there is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands. There is no one who seeks God. All have turned away. They have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. Their throats are open graves. Their tongues practice deceit. The poison of vipers is on their lips. Their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness, and on it goes. That's pretty bad. The angels know even better than we do just how evil our hearts are. And knowing that, knowing our condition, they saw Christ leave the throne, come to the earth, and be humiliated so that we could be forgiven. Wow, amazing grace. They long to look into this. One author writes, people are divided into two types, not the guilty and the righteous, as many people think, but rather two different types of guilty people. There are guilty people who know they're guilty, and there are guilty people who do not. Both types need the same undeserved grace of God applied to their life so that we can appreciate salvation. I submit to you that there are two things, at least two things, the angels long to look into. Number one, the sacrificial steps God has taken in order to make salvation possible. And number two, the spiritual condition of people Christ sacrificed himself for. Not only will the angels spend eternity looking into these two things and much, much more to be amazed by, But so also will we, who are recipients of God's great salvation, spend all of eternity being more and more amazed. If you're amazed now, you're only scratching the surface of understanding how amazing God's love is for us. Years ago, John Newton, a former slave trader, penned these words, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, and now I see." The amazing grace of God to think about. The angels long to look into these things, and so also should we. May you be encouraged to do so today.